My mom died when I, a teen male, was pre-tween. She left me an inheritance that my dad was put in charge of. The money was supposed to be for my future and nobody was supposed to touch it unless I really needed it, and it was pretty specific. I read through it 5 months ago when crap went down. My dad got married again when I was a tween, and he has a pre-tween stepdaughter and now a pre-tween daughter with his wife, Louise. My half-sister was diagnosed with a rare condition when she was a pre-tween. It was always clear something was wrong, but they had a really hard time figuring it out. Doctors would say she'd be fine when she was older. This condition isn't life-threatening, like she won't die from it, but it could potentially leave her permanently disabled in a bad way. A few months ago, they found out about this hard-to-get-into treatment for it, but it was expensive. There are ways to get help paying for it, but that takes longer. So my dad decided to use the inheritance Mom left me to pay for it. He tried asking me, but he was going to do it anyway, and when I said no, he told me as much. Then he shamed me for saying no, for putting college before the health of my half-sister. Louise was in the room with us, but she hadn't talked before, so I said no. She asked me how I could look at my half-sister and the life she would have if we didn't do something, and said no. I told my dad I would never forgive him if he took the money. After I read her will, my grandparents had a copy, I brought up the fact that it was only for my needs. He told me Mom was dead and he hoped she'd understand. I told him I never would. He told me I'd understand when I'm older. I told him I hated him, and I told Louise she better never speak to me again because I found it disgusting. She'd encouraged stealing from me and taking my Mom's money. I told my grandparents what Dad did. They're my Mom's parents, but they stayed friendly with Dad and sometimes they would help him. They shared stuff with him all the time, and Grandpa would look at Dad's car for free if anything was wrong. That all stopped when I told them. Dad couldn't figure out why until he confronted them about it last week. They told him he had some nerve stealing from me, taking their daughter's money and spending it on his child. My dad was mad that they didn't understand and support his decision. He confronted me about it and complained about what I did. I laughed and told him I'd warned him I would never forgive him for it. He asked how I could be so heartless and selfish. I told him I would never forget what he did. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. I feel for your half-sister, but your dad stole from you to take care of his child. Your maternal grandparents are rightly angry at your dad. He has no right to speak for the dead either. That will be your mother's final word on her estate. If she wanted to provide for your father and his future, including new children and partners, she'd have damn well left it for him. Given the will and how OP's money was stolen, maybe his grandparents can help him file a suit in small claims court once they get custody of OP. There are ways that OP's dad could have gotten the money: charities, loans, second mortgage, HELOCs, and the dad chose to steal from his son instead. I was attacked by a dog when I was pre-tween and ended up with over 200 stitches in my face, so my parents sued. I was awarded $10,000, originally invested in stocks, and grew to about $19,000 by the time I was young. That was the year my parents ended up selling the stocks and replacing our roof. I was supposed to be paid back when they sold the home. Newsflash, I wasn't. I really wish someone had been there to help me hold them accountable somehow. This isn't small claims territory unless it's within the monetary limits of the jurisdiction. A consultation with a probate or even a family law attorney is a good place for OP to start. OP, that was your money, not your dad's money. It might have been stolen from you for a good cause, but it was stolen from you, and that's illegal. Please have your grandparents find you a lawyer. Get your money back. Your stepsister has already benefited from it. Now it's time for your dad to find a way to repay you. Every cent. I, 34 male, have had a wonderful relationship with my fiancée Ruby, female 32, for the past few years. I genuinely care about her and I could easily spend hours listing everything I admire. For the sake of time though, know that I believed we were a perfect match. However, I recently had an epiphany regarding Ruby's behaviour. From the beginning, she spoke about how toxic her family was and how much she resented them. Despite this, she remained in frequent contact with them. Over time, I've come to the difficult and painful realization that it's not her family that's toxic, it's Ruby. I have many stories about her mistreating her family, but I'll highlight just a few. A little over a year ago, we were celebrating her parents' anniversary, and she repeatedly pressured her brother Will, 30, to drink, even though he struggled with alcohol in the past and had been sober for 3 years. Ruby insisted at least 7 to 9 times, and though Will declined politely each time, she wouldn't let up. It wasn't until he firmly told her no, and I reminded her of his previous refusals, that she stopped. But even then she remained passive-aggressive towards him for the rest of the night until he apologised. 8 months ago, Ruby's older sister Janet, 36, had a very difficult divorce and fell into depression afterward. Ruby, on more than one occasion, told Janet that she'd come to visit her to cheer her up, but then would cancel at the last minute. In private, she admitted to me that she just didn't feel like it or held petty grudges against Janet from years ago. This behaviour infuriated me because I hate when people raise expectations only to disappoint. When I told her it was unkind, on several occasions, she brushed it off, saying Janet would get over it every time. Every so often, when Ruby gets frustrated with work, she calls her mom and yells at her, blaming her and her father for pushing her into this career. On several occasions, she's yelled at her parents until her mother has begun to cry. On top of all this, Ruby regularly asks her family for favours. If they're unable to comply, she'll cut communication with them for weeks until they cave to her demands. It's really jarring, really. Ruby treats me and her friends with kindness, but her cruelty toward her family is undeniable and difficult to look past. Even her friends have noticed, and when they joke about it, Ruby dismisses it and insists her family doesn't mind. The worst interaction Ruby has is with her younger sister Ethel, 29. Ruby constantly belittles and criticizes Ethel over the smallest things. It's horrible because I've seen firsthand how smug and happy Ruby can get whenever she puts Ethel down. I've heard Ruby tell Ethel things like, "Know your place" and "Don't forget your place" so many times at this point it's frankly exhausting. It probably sounds trivial or petty, but seeing how Ruby interacts with her family has unsettled me. I want children someday, and I don't want them growing up in an environment where this behaviour is seen as normal. After considerable thought and reflection, I plan to leave Ruby in the near future. Continuing this relationship would be dishonest, just as I've lied to myself for years pretending her behaviour wasn't an issue. Some of the people I've confided in think I'm overreacting or being unfair, given how devoted Ruby is to me and how this behaviour doesn't directly affect me. While they may not be entirely wrong, I still can't see a future with her. Am I the idiot? And you only realise now? And by the logic of your friends, how do you think she will treat you and them when she will have enough of you and them? Toxic people are toxic to everybody, not just their long-time victims. Thank God you want to leave. She will 100% do this to the kids, because they will always forgive and want mum's love just like her family. Once she's married to OP, she'll do the same to him, believing he can't or won't leave, especially when kids get involved. Rip the band-aid off now. Waiting won't make it any easier or less messy. But be prepared to meet the real Ruby when confronting her and or breaking up with her. It'll probably make ending the relationship a lot easier when she loses her crap, and she will. You should have left after the brother incident. Heck. Mini update. For those wondering why I haven't left yet, it's because my new lease doesn't start until next month. Ruby and I currently live together in an apartment under her name, but we split the rent by alternating months. Even though it was her turn, I paid last month to make things easier. I'll also cover October's rent before I leave to help reduce any hard feelings. My doctor recommended I get a service dog, and I got Roxy. The primary thing I've trained to help me with is fainting and mobility assistance. Before I faint, she'll rear up and rest her paws on me. While tugging or barking is a more common signal, this is the one that works best for me. I'll always notice it, and it isn't disruptive in quiet environments like a theatre or library. Roxy, for the record, is a good girl who's been explicitly invited to come back as often as she wants by some of the grumpiest New York farmers and shopkeepers I know. I've never had a single complaint about her behaviour. I was hosting my family when Roxy alerted me. This should have been nothing, but my sister-in-law was in the room and she freaked out. She pulled her off me with a hand on her collar and was laughing and scolding her about how she was so bad and spoiled and had to learn she can't jump up on people. I get down and faint. When I come to, I go to my sister-in-law and start telling her never to drag a dog by the collar, that this is Roxy's house and not hers, that I decide what my dog can and can't do to me, and that she's a service dog who was actively doing her job when she started grabbing at her. Now, my sister-in-law apparently didn't know she was a service dog. That's understandable. I only use her vest if we go out in our very small town. She's a fluffy farm dog, and I can't imagine that she would be very comfortable. She does, however, act like a service dog. When she's on duty, she's always pinned to my side. She's very alert to her surroundings, etc. But hey, my sister-in-law doesn't spend enough time around service dogs to notice that sort of cue, so I get it. She insisted that this wasn't appropriate service dog training, that I just didn't want to admit my dog was spoiled and needed to set boundaries with her, and that no dog should ever jump all over someone, no matter what. She all but accused me of lying about needing my dog. She's so cute and I understand that, but you really can't keep letting her do anything and bringing her anywhere just because you insist she's a service dog. I asked her to promise she would never scold my dog again or interfere with her doing her job. She rolled her eyes and dodged the question. I told her to enjoy the rest of the night and never step foot in my house again. My husband was out, and I should have consulted him first, but he was 100% in agreement when I mentioned she pulled Roxy by the collar. She's a pretty big, fluffy dog. She has a strong neck and is unlikely to do any real damage, but it's the principle of not letting people do things that could seriously injure her. The other problem is that I'm the primary host of the family, so this effectively bans my sister-in-law and possibly my brother from most family events and holidays. Absolutely not the idiot. Genuinely floored by your sister-in-law's behaviour and comments, I can't imagine having the gall to tell a service dog, or their owner, how they should do their job in their own home. Actions have consequences. Do you really think she didn't know the dog was a service dog? She's the type of person that would secretly feed a celiac gluten because it's just a fad. And if anyone in your family needs a reminder that messing around will result in them finding out, remind them of the legal penalties in your jurisdiction for interfering with a service animal. It can be a felony in some US states. She could be responsible for training a new service dog as well. Does she have tens of thousands of dollars sitting around? Anyone who supports her idiot behavior can pay up too. Extra idiot points to sister-in-law for fake claiming. I wouldn't allow her back in my house in any case. My husband, 35, and I, 35 female, have been married for 14 years. We have twins, one daughter and one son, both tweens. When we first met, my husband always said he wanted to be a dad. He grew up poor and his dad wasn't in his life much. He probably saw his dad once every few years. He always talked about wanting to be there for his future kids. I always wanted kids, so my husband was happy. When we had kids, everything was great. When they were babies, he did everything he could for them and more. He went hard to ensure they had the best he could buy. As they got older, he became less and less involved. He would work, come home and say hey to the kids, ask how school went, have a quick 5-minute conversation, and that would be it. Every week he gives them money to get whatever they want. If they ask him to buy anything, he does it. Never anything deeper. Never spend any time with them. When suggested, he would say no. He believes he's doing a great job with them as they're cared for. I tried to explain to him that giving them money and buying them nice things is only one part of taking care of them. I've tried so hard to explain that you need to interact with them more or they'll see you as a piggy bank and not a dad to whom they can talk to. This all came to a head when I was taking the kids out to eat, but he didn't want to go. I told him he hadn't spent time with them since they were babies. This led to an argument and we both got mad. It ended when I told him he wasn't acting any different than his own dad. I've never seen him look and sound angrier in my life. That was all yesterday. Am I the idiot for telling him he's no better than his own dad? Not the idiot. Sounds like my ex. He also said he didn't want to be like his self-centered father, narcissist these days. Yep, he turned out the same, even worse. I told him many times that he acted like his father and he cursed me out. His behavior never changed. I divorced him and got the kids full-time and he had little interaction with them. Now he's in a nursing home. Kids don't visit him and they're doing fine, although my son always asks, "I'm not like Dad, am I?" He's not. I'm sorry his dad couldn't be a better man and father, but there's nothing I could do about it except finally leave. I can confirm that this doesn't end with a relationship between kids and a father. Mine was a pilot and he provided quite well for us. He's now 80 and I'm around out of a sense of duty and love for my mother who has dementia. She's the one who raised my siblings and me. She's the one who knew who we were, our likes and dislikes, our traumas and joys. To this day, I barely know who the man is, how to have a conversation with him, or any deeper connection to him other than the income he provided for our family. So my girlfriend and I stopped at a convenience on the way home one night and bought some snacks. She bought a little carton of chocolate milk with a straw. The next day she was away and I saw the chocolate milk in the fridge. It looked really good, so I ended up drinking it, thinking to myself I might stop by the convenience store later and replace it. I did just that, replaced it with a little box of the same brand later that day and forgot all about it. I didn't think to tell her. A day or so later, she goes to drink her chocolate milk box and finds that the carton is missing the usual attached straw. She asks me about it. I confessed I drank her milk and replaced it, and since I bought another box of plain milk that still had the straw, she could use that. I didn't realise the replaced chocolate milk didn't have a straw. She was bothered by it and kept bringing it up and was bothered that I hadn't told her about it at all, and we probably talked about it for about an hour. She wasn't upset, but she definitely wouldn't let it go. I said sorry, and next time I would tell her ahead of time if something like that came up again. Am I the idiot? I wouldn't have cared if she'd done the same to me. She was mainly bothered that I took it behind her back. My thought process was that if I just drank it and replaced it, why bother? Not the idiot. If something is replaceable in my fridge and my boyfriend consumes it and then replaces it, that's fine. It's an easily replaceable consumable item. The fact that it was replaced before I went looking for it would be the respectful thing to do. She's overreacting because A, it was purchased with you and she seemed excited to consume it. B, the straw impeded her ability to do that in real time. I'd honestly be annoyed, but not because you did anything wrong, just because I wanted to drink my chocolate milk. Anything more than a discussion where she expresses annoyance and you apologise is overblown here. It's chocolate milk. The lack of straw didn't even impede her. She was at her house. Surely she can just pour it in a glass. LOL. I will never understand this level of pettiness. Your girl is complaining about new chocolate milk. Not gone milk, not wrong milk, just that the straw fell off. For 1 hour. I know at this point I'm soapboxing, but this just sends me to the moon like nothing else. What the heck? What is this woman actually going to do when you two have to deal with an actual real difficult problem in life? If I had a lovely chocolate milk that my husband kept drinking, guess what? I'd buy 20 instead of 1. I guess times truly are improving for humanity if we have time to worry and moan about things like this instead of, oh, I don't know, hundreds of years ago, the cow died in the middle of the cruel winter. How are we going to feed our baby? Rant over.